How's everybody? Good. All righty. Thank you for joining me this evening. Dr. Griffith Jordan will not be with us this evening. She'll be with us again next week. She's got a previous engagement at her school, I believe, so she will be back with us next week. So let's look over the notes for the week. First thing, as we always do, let's look at our schedule. And so we're in the short rows now, sure enough. So next week, we have your final case study. You should have finished your last discussion board, and we'll talk about, we've already talked about discussion board 6. I want to point out again that Pam wrote an excellent narrative. And case study next week, make sure that you don't get thrown off by the fact that it was set in Chile or some of the titles. That's part of what you got to kind of figure out, is how that translates to schools in this part of the world. The technology, is like your technology facilitator. And so make sure that you can tie everything in that case back to something that you've done last semester, this semester, especially, the parent meeting that should be held, like with the skip. That's the whole point of communicating with parents and having that meeting. This is a perfect example where if you were communicating regularly with parents, you could have that parent meeting. You could have EC night, EC family night, or whatever. And so make sure you can tie all those things together on that case. Now, does anybody have any questions on that last case study? It's pretty comprehensive. But if you have any, just let me know. Our stars of the week, Treva finished her cap, and Larissa and Kishana have not only finished the cap, they finished the PSYOP too this summer. So congratulations to all of them. But I did want to say to everybody that I was especially pleased with all of your evidence work. Everybody did an excellent job. Everybody did a great job on all of your assignments. Just make sure you get your work in and get this last case study knocked out. I think it will work, but if it doesn't, then that's on me. But I think, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong here, can't y'all go to my grades right here on your Blackboard and see what you're missing? I had a student tell me recently that theirs wasn't working, but everybody I talked to lately said it was working fine. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but hopefully it's working.
Tell the person to check if they have it on all grades, because one time I accidentally switched the tab and I wasn't seeing stuff. So it could be that. Okay,
that's great. That's great news. I didn't know that. So just check, make sure it's on all grades. All right. See, I can't see that. It doesn't open up for me. So that's good. I'll write that down right now while I'm thinking of it. So you can check your grades there and see where you are. Let me write that down. All right, so that should do that. We've got our stars of the week. Everybody's stars this week. We're getting ready for our cap. I want to talk to you about the cap. There was a question about it. I want to make sure that I get that and people understand. There's 2 prompts to task 1. Don't get confused. It's real simple. Whether you start this semester or start next, don't get confused. I was asked, do we report the state data, like in South Carolina, it's the teacher and parent survey that your principal has that's been released to schools, or in North Carolina, it's the teacher working conditions survey, and or do we do our own? Well, you do both. There's 2 prompts. The first one, you report what the state said. You pick the lowest ones from what the state said, and you resurvey those and ask, are these really low at our school, or you just match principal that day? That's the whole notion, is you identify the lowest areas, the items in those 5 areas, and then you send those same questions back out again. So the question is do you do one or the other? No, you do both. It's right there on the screen. So make sure you do that. And then in task 2, the only thing that's really different, that requires any effort there is you go out and do qualitative work, which means interviews, and ask people why you think it was low. And then it's pretty simple after that. Why do you think it was low? Or what could we do to fix it? I mean, that's what qualitative work is for. Quantitative work is to figure out your numbers. Qualitative is to try to figure out the answers. So, you know, you look at your areas that are low, the items that are low in those 5 areas, you resurvey them, you confirm they're low, you go out and you talk to people. Here's some recommendations that I have. What do you think about these? Will this work? Or what do you think would work to fix these things? That's what you do in task 2 is your qualitative work. But you need some recommendations. You know, it tells you to make sure you have a set of recommendations that you can take out there with you right here, a set of recommendations at the end of prompt 2. Once you gather your data, make a set of recommendations on your own, and then go ask people what they think of them. Now, don't go ask what they think, because you might get more than you bargained for on that. But I always like the recommendations. They give us a framework to work off of, so people aren't just kind of out in left field. So take your recommendations and talk to teachers about, what do you think? Here's an identified problem. We've confirmed it. What do you think about the ideas that me and my CAP team or me has, and what do you think would fix it, or if you think these things might work? And so it's real important. Let me stop my share. It's real important when you're doing cultural work to try to improve your teacher working condition or your parent and teacher working condition survey. It's real important to ask the teachers. That's the whole notion of it, is to ask them and get their input. So if you come up with a set of recommendations, you need to make sure you run it by your teachers and see what they think. I mean, that's the whole point, is to include them. That's why we do it, is we value their opinion. Or at least we say we do. Now, you do know that the reason why we do these things is because it's a federal mandate. No Child Left Behind in 1991 said that all state public school districts had to have an initiative for teacher retention. And that's what these surveys are for. Now, I would argue that if it was so important as we pretend that it is in North Carolina, we wouldn't wait till every other year to do it. But that's what we do. We only do it every other year. But that is our teacher retention initiative, is sending out this survey. Now, districts have taken it a lot more seriously than the state has, thank goodness, because a lot of them will do an off-year survey of their own. And they hold principals accountable for it now. But the state just does it every other year, but only to fill in that, put that check in the box for No Child Left Behind, so they keep getting federal money. But if you're a principal, you'd be smart to utilize this thing as much as you do your test scores. You would really be smart to do that. That the state doesn't care a lot about it is immaterial. Districts do, superintendents do. You as a principal should. You should care what your teachers think. You should involve them in decision making if you can. Now, if you can't, tell them, I have to make this call, but wherever possible, but at least get their opinion or get their input when even if you're making the decision. That would be a smart thing to do. All right, so we talked about our case study, we talked about our activity, we finished those for the semester. You should be finishing up the skip again. Try to have everything done. Grades go in, what is it, next Wednesday? No, wait a minute, let me make sure. Today is the 18th. The 25th is our last class day. Yep. And that's Tuesday. Grades go in that next day on Wednesday. So I'll have everything. So make sure you have all your stuff in there by the end of the day on Wednesday. I think they'll give me to Friday if I have to have it, but she wants them on Wednesday, even though you aren't graduating. She wants the graduating, but she said if we could get those in, so you'll have to Friday, but that's it. Now, unfortunately, I can't do like we can do going spring into summer. Spring into summer, we can keep task stream open and Blackboard open and let you keep on. Can't do that. Can't do that going in the fall. They will close it down sometime around the 1st of August. They will shut it down, and it may not come back up for weeks because they have to load everything for the fall. And so that's the big deal. See, summer, everything's already in there, but so everything's got to be in by Friday. Even if you put it in, I probably won't even get a notification. They've already turned notifications off, by the way. I'm having to go in and check manually for work right now. They've already turned those off in preparation for fall. So I don't think I've missed any time. I don't think I've missed anybody's work, but I don't think I've got out of my normal 24-hour time frame, but I'm having to check manually for work now. So they've turned off the notification system in Blackboard, which is an aggravation, but that's okay. I'll get to the work. It'll be good. All right. Okay. Anything else? All right. So for our content tonight, I always don't have a whole lot of content on this night in terms of we'll have some information, but not reporting sexual abuse. We've been over that. Let's see what this one is. Yeah. Accused of not reporting student sexual abuse claims appears in court. She actually got prison time, real prison time. She only, she lost her house and her freedom. We've gone over this 1,000 times this semester, but it's just one last reminder that, it's not just a tort. You can be prosecuted criminally if you don't follow through and report these things. If a crime has occurred. So make sure you do that. It's just one last reminder. Now, I want to spend a little time tonight. I don't want to take up too much of your time because next week will be a monster as usual. What I want to do is, I can close that. I want to do a quick, this one, I always try to do it toward the end. Interviewing materials, this tab. And I want to kind of go over some of these things and see if you've got any questions. Hopefully some of you will get interviews. If not, you'll be interviewing in the fall for mid-year openings. And so I want to do that. I need for you to understand that when you interview as an assistant principal, there are 4 different types of interviews, and you got to understand which one. And if you don't know, you need to ask. If you get there's 4 different types. We generally start out with an applicant pool interview that kind of separates the wheat from the chaff. Sometimes it's the old strength finder / Gallup, where they ask you about your dispositional behaviors. The thing to remember on that is to be honest. Now, as honest as you can, but you'll get asked questions. Now there are landmine questions. I'm gonna stop my share there. I can't show it because it's copyright stuff. I am trained Gallup. I am certified Gallup receiver. You're going to have a book next semester called Strength Finder, which is part of the Gallup series, and it's trying to assess your dispositional behaviors. So they'll ask you questions like, are you always on time? So Daniel, I'll ask you that question. Daniel, are you always on time?
No, but I strive to live by the old motto, early is on time and on time is late.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that part, but when you said no, now they're going to score this thing binary. You either get a point or you don't get any points. So make sure if they ask you, are you always timed? The appropriate answer is yes, hopefully early. They're going to ask that kind of dispositional behaviors. They're going to ask you, and I'm going to ask this one of Michelle, if it paid exactly the same, would you rather be a principal and work with teachers or a teacher and work with kids if it paid exactly the same?
I would say principal and work with teachers.
That is the answer, Michelle. Excellent. If you tell them kids, they'll let you keep on working with kids. Remember, you're changing careers from working with children to working with adults. They want to know that you know that, and that you're not just doing it because the salary looks better. That's another one of those landmine questions. All right. Are you I'll ask this one for Pam. Are you a competitive person?
I am actually.
That's
I
the
played
correct answer.
softball and basketball, and I'm a competitive person.
See now, you are Pam. Thank you for that, Pam. Pam's playing right along tonight. what we tend to find is competitive people that have done those kinds of things are the people who aspire to be school administrators. And guess what? They make the best ones. We know that. They understand competition. They understand hard work. They understand teamwork. They understand all those things that make you, that lend itself to being a good principal. So now, the thing to remember, you'll be asked also what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are during this phase if they do the Gallup. Your strengths are always dispositional. I'm honest, I'm responsible, I'm on time, I'm a hard worker, I'm competitive. All those kinds of things that we just discussed, your dispositional behaviors. I'm responsible, I'm ethical, I'm honest, I'm hardworking, show up early and leave late, all those things. Because that's who you are. Now, they'll ask you about your weaknesses. Never admit to a dispositional weakness. Your weaknesses are always based on inexperience. I've seen you, for example, you'd say, I've seen that I work with the teacher Power School portal every day. I've seen the administrative one, but I know I need to learn that. It's a lot more involved where I put that data in, that disciplinary data from that manual. I know that I know how to do teacher observations, but I know that there's a place I got to upload those. I'll have to, but I'll get up to speed immediately. If there's a training to do observations for this district, some districts require their own training, just like Gaston requires NESIS training. I did that with them last spring. I actually went through it with them. Then I know I need to get trained so I can hold up my end of the bargain. Because if I can't do observations, then the team has to pick up my slack. I understand that. So always your strengths are your dispositional behaviors that won't change. Your weaknesses are inexperienced things that will change. That's that whole first level if they do the dispositional thing. Now they may do a data dive. If they do a data dive with you, a data analysis, it'll be exactly like the one that we did in the app cell last semester. Remember when you disaggregated your scores? It'll be exactly like that. Let me share my screen and show you an example of one. Again, I have all these materials right there in our shell. Okay, I can close that one. So right here, let me go back down here to interviewing materials if I can see it. All right, so I've got one data analysis performance task. It's right here. There's no need for me to pull it up and show it. It's exactly what we did in the app set. They'll give you something like that. So that's the second type. The first would be dispositional. Again, most of the time districts will only do one of these in the first level. They'll do this dispositional behavior. They'll do a data analysis. Sometimes they'll do a virtual where they have a bunch of questions, and I've got them right here. So let me open that one for you. They'll ask you these kinds of things right here. Now the trick is sometimes they'll give you the questions in advance. Now you notice right now, unfortunately I'm looking at myself. That way it makes it look like I'm looking at you. Now, I look down a lot to my notepad and follow my notes over here on my lesson plan that I have. If they give you the questions, they will expect that you'll be able to answer them without doing that you'll be looking at them like I'm looking at you, even if it's a blank screen. So I usually have, I'm not in my other place, but I normally have them. But let's say what you do is you get you some sticky notes, little yellow sticky notes. And you know how the stickies at the top, and you take and you write yourself notes on the questions that they gave you like these up front, and you stick them all around the perimeter of your monitor, of your laptop or your monitor, and turn them the right way. Now, don't be doing this. If you're going down the right-hand side, right sideways, but pay attention where the sticky part is, and put them all around your monitor, so that you're looking like you're looking at them while you're reading your notes. But don't ever look down and read your notes on a virtual interview. That pretty much disqualifies you. That's the trick of the virtual interview. Can you engage with people online? And will you follow the directions? And so right here, I had to view a video of a 9th grade English class and take notes. They had some questions. They gave different things. But right here, if they're going to schedule a virtual interview, this is the one that they use in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and everybody else. If they do virtual, this is one that they follow. It's right there in your shell. right there in your shell. So here's the sticky note deal. It's right down here at the bottom. It will remind you. And they don't give you a lot of time to gather your thoughts. So have your notes and be prepared. So that's the third type of opening interview. Again, dispositional, could be a data dive. It could be a virtual interview. And again, there may not be a live person there that you can actually look at, like I'm looking at y'all tonight during the virtual interview. That's again, see if you can handle that. And then the fourth type of interview, let me get that one out of the way. Let me go back here. Okay. Would be a reasoning activity. This, virtual daily analysis task, virtual interview, dispositional attributes. That's the most common one now. But sometimes folks are still doing those old written reasoning activities. Rarely do I see those anymore, but now here's the landmine on them. Let me see if I've got this thing ready. If they pull this thing out, I'll be surprised. But if you don't, I mean, you can see these are old. This is like principal was 2 weeks late getting there, and he had how many? 90 minutes. Oh, they had 21 emails that collected over 2 weeks. You can tell that's a little old. I got 21 before I got up this morning. I average 104 a day, and I'm sure you'd probably do too at school administration. But anyway, you have to work through these, and what you would do. Now, one of these is go back to FERPA. A reporter wants to come and interview kids. You can't let them on campus, and you definitely can't let them photograph or talk to kids. You'll have like a legal one in that, that stuff. But the trick is this. Sometimes, and so you work through all these different, you tell them what you do with all these emails that you got. But the trick is sometimes they'll have you categorize them like this. Again, this is oldest of the old school. I did hear one district that was still using this last year, so I still keep it just in case. There's no such thing as an email that would fit into quadrant 3. That's a disqualifier. That's the idiot test. Nothing could be urgent but not important. So you have to categorize all of them as either urgent or important, or in one of these spots. Nothing could be urgent. How can it be urgent if it's not important? So that's the trick on that one. But if you have to do a reasoning activity, it'll be something like this. So look this one over, and always on a reasoning, there'll be one where they kind of catch you on a FERPA question. That's kind of the other thing, is giving somebody access to kids that you're not supposed to. So those are the 4 types of opening interviews. All right. So if you get through whichever one of these that you have, the next round is going to be your group interview. Now, group interview has civilians. You got to understand that. It may have parents, it may have students, it may have teachers, it may have community members. You say, well, what are you talking about civilians? Not non-school administrators. Many of them, when you refer to a PLC, they won't know what that is. When you refer to the inclusion model for exceptional children, they won't know what that is. And what you can't do is say, oh, you don't know what that means, because that's calling them stupid. So what you have to do in the group interview is listen to the questions that they give you, but phrase the responses in a way that a layman would know what you're talking about. So let me give you an example. So we'll open this one up right quick. All right. They ask you about your leadership style. Well, y'all haven't had 605 yet, but mostly what you'd say is I'm a servant leader, I'm a transformational leader, I'm a situational leader, whichever of those styles that most accurately fits you. These people don't know any of those. So what you would say, you would describe a transactional servant leader. Always stick with that. Always stick with transactional servant leader. Don't say the word, but stick with that. Here's what that means. You earn respect and trust of parents and teachers by making consistent, appropriate decisions. Child-centered, focused on the issues, avoid personal conflict, striving to be fair, courteous, respectful, respond to issues, positive, approachable, open to change and new ideas. That would be the definition of a transformational servant leader, that you serve others, that you're not transactional, that, you know, punish, reward, that kind of stuff. But if you say transformational or servant leader, they won't know. You describe it. Same thing. Second question. Assessment drives instruction. How would you teacher begin to understand and use data available schools to make sound decisions? Well, that'd be PLCs, except they don't know what a PLC is. So you describe a PLC for them. Data analysis, development of teaching strategies based on needs of students, willingness to plan collaboratively. Isn't that what a PLC is? But if you said PLC, they won't know what that means. So again, I've got some scenario questions here from the group interview, but again, you'll have civilians in there. You got to speak. Don't dumb it down. Don't say you're dumb. I'm having to dumb it down, but dumb it down. Don't use acronyms. Don't use initials. Those kinds of things. Don't assume they understand something like the difference between mainstreaming and inclusion. They won't know what FERPA is. So you talk about, you know, protecting the family's privacy and their rights, or the students. They won't understand FERPA. The short-term lingo that we use, they won't get it. So that's the deal. And the whole idea, it doesn't really, at the group interview, it doesn't really matter what you say. It's, can you connect with these people and not offend them? That's really what it's about. Because they don't know what you're saying is right or wrong. That comes in level 3. That comes the next one. Now, all of a sudden, you better know your jargon. You better know all these terms, because now you're going to do the principal interview. And they're going to run you over the coals to make sure you know something, because they're going to be responsible for you and they're going to hire you. They want to know if you know anything or not. That's what the third level is, the principal interview. Sometimes an assistant superintendent sets in on that one too, by the way. But you better know something when you get to the principal interview. You better know what all those terms are. You better know what those acronyms are. If you don't, principal won't hire you, you know. And now, the only thing that I would say about that one, and there's a series of questions underneath this one, the only thing that I would say about that one is they'll slip in that strengths and weaknesses question on you. They'll get you feeling comfortable, watch your 5-year plan, yada, yada, yada. And then they'll try to hit you below the belt with that strengths and weaknesses question. Again, your strengths are always dispositional. Your weaknesses are always inexperience, always. Always. And so, but yeah, they'll ask you about that one, but you're having this conversation, man, we're vibrating sympathetically, we're hitting it off, we're clicking, and all of a sudden they've got you calm and, you know, kind of feeling good about everything that's going on. They hit you with that below the belt question. Be prepared for it. Remember, this is still an interview. It's not a conversation, and they're still trying to figure you out. And then the 4th level interview will be with the superintendent or the area superintendent. And they won't talk to you about, you know, bus routes or any of that. They'll talk to you about big ticket items, because they're trying to figure out if you have the potential to be a principal down the road. And so that's the notion. They'll talk to you about future ready students, 21st century skills, those kinds of things, what kids are supposed to look like when you get done with them. They'll talk to you about big ticket items. So make sure you know those kinds of things. What does future ready really mean? I've got some really good things. Now, again, 5 dispositional soft skills, that's in that first interview. Again, we'll review that. Your emotional intelligence, but your work ethic, positive attitude, communication, time management, self-confidence. Those are good ones. If they don't ask you specific ones, those would be good ones to highlight in your first interview about your dispositional behaviors. So those are the 4 types of interviews. Now, here are some general ideas about interviewing. You can take a 2-page evidence summary. You really don't need to, but if you wanted to, that would summarize what you did in the SIG. You're better to take the link to your portfolio, your artifact portfolio. People like that kind of stuff better. They don't want to read your evidence, but sometimes they ask, you know, for a synopsis of what your portfolio, no more than 2 pages. And I've got one as an example here of what you did in each of the 6 evidences. If they ask you for it, sometimes they do. Most of the time, they're content to see your artifact portfolio that you're working on. 5 things that you got to bring to you. Always make sure you have these with you. I don't care if they ask you or not. Let me take this call right quick. It's the chief. Sorry about that. We're working on a project. Okay. You need to have your current resume. It needs to be 2 pages with current references. Please don't take a resume and leave with somebody that has references that are out of date or can't be reached. Make sure that you do that. A cover letter, make sure that you have a separate cover letter, no more than a half a page, that speaks directly to that job, that you're interested in that job. At least go to that. You know, your resume is the same for everybody, but do a little quick. It doesn't have to be 1,000 words or any of that. A quick and dirty. Again, your references should be on your 2-pager. They need to be up to date. Now, strategic plan. Your portfolio is your evidence folio. Sometimes they'll want a 2-page summary, but that's it. Now, strategic plan. What that means is that you don't have to bring one in, but you have looked at their report card and their TWC. So you have some notion of what might need to be addressed at their school. Got it? You know, you've looked at their report card, you've looked at their teacher working conditions or their survey condition in South Carolina. You've looked at those things so you know who they are. You've looked at both their composite, their comparative accountability score, ABCD, and you've looked at their growth. Now, we all know that your comparative score is about who you get. Your growth score is about what you do with it. You need to have looked at both of those. So, because sometimes, and let me stop my share, sometimes you'll have a situation where our composite score is CD, very low, but our growth score, we exceeded growth. That means that our teachers are doing well. We can't help who we get. We can help what we do with them. Sometimes, conversely, you'll see schools with A and B scores, but don't make growth. That means they're just warehousing kids. They're getting great kids. They're doing nothing with them. And so they're just feeding them, getting them out of the rain. And so you should know that about the school. You should know about, we had one the other night. Ooh, we were working on one the other night, and boy, not the other night, the other day, one of my doctoral students, and most of the stuff on the TWC was in red. Ooh, and we had the principal on with us. Ooh, boy, was that uncomfortable. I loved it, but that's kind of uncomfortable conversation. Everything was red. Now, here's the beauty of that. My doctoral student basically gathered all of her research and came back and said, all this stuff is bad. Well, the principal pitched a fit. Oh, you're just trying to sabotage me. But when TWC came back, it was even worse than what Talia had found. And that kind of, that shut her up. But yeah, that was an uncomfortable conversation to have. But you need to know those things when you walk in, because you may be asking questions. We're having problems with this. What would you do about that? And you don't want to go in and say something derogatory when that's their problem. You've got to kind of come up with a strategic plan in your head. They're having these problems. They're having these issues. This is working good. This is not working good. Those kinds of things. Because you may be asked those questions. We've got this problem. What would you do? We're putting together a strategic plan, or they may even ask you to sketch one out. I've seen that happen in that first level interview. That's when you do that data dive. They have you do a little quick plan that goes along with it. That's what we're talking about here. But be prepared to do that. That should be something when you walking into an interview. I don't care what level it is. You should always be able to speak to their data and do a little mini strategic plan. All right. So those are the things you got to bring with you. Now, things that you should never ask in an interview. Let's get to that. Let's see. You should never ask in an interview, when will I be promoted? How long do I got to be assistant principal? Well, I don't know. But you're not going to we're not going to worry about that here, because we're not going to hire you. If you're already asking how long I got to be an assistant principal before you get the job, probably not going to go well for you. What's the salary? Again, that's something that when you get to the end, and that's based on a number of factors, but that's not during the interview process. When can I expect a raise? When will I get that? Flex time. Now, I'm going to say this again, and I know that somebody on this screen could offer to differ, but I'm going to say it again. There is no such thing as comp time or flex time. Not if you work for state government in North or South Carolina. They're both right to work states. You cannot be paid for work now that you did not do with the promise that you will do it later. That is against the law in both states. There is no comp time. There is no flex time. There is no cougar time or Trojan time or any of those things that I know that happen. They are all illegal. All, ALL, all illegal. So, but see that circles back to, I went to Hickory Grove, stopped by to see Aquanetta. Had some interns there. I was on my way to Fayetteville, and I saw a picture of the new assistant principal. Now it wasn't even hog killing weather. It was still September. It was still hot, and she got hired for the beginning of the school in August. I dropped by. That first thing I went to see Aquanetta. How you doing? I'm doing great. How's Miss So and So doing? She's already gone. What do you mean? I said, well, you know that we're a late start elementary. Yeah, yes, ma'am. I know it was a pain when I was working for CMS when I was in charge of that kind of stuff. So Hickory Grove has a huge elementary school. It's on the east side of Charlotte. Has a huge, huge elementary school. It also has a huge, huge original federal Smart Start at the other end of the campus. They both have about 1,000 students. There's only 5 of those Smart Starts left in Charlotte. They both have about 1,000 students. Well, you can't get that many in at the same time with buses and traffic and all that. So the Smart Start starts at the time that you would normally start the elementary, and the elementary starts an hour later at 9:30. Well, that means they have to go to 4:30. And so this new assistant principal went there, hired. I had trained her when years before in CMS. She finally got an opportunity to get a job. I guess she finally, got somebody to hire. But anyway, the first thing that she said after she got hired was, I have to leave at 4 o'clock every day to pick up my kids. Well, what do you mean? We're in school till 4:30. You can't leave till, the teachers can't leave till 4:45. You can't leave till 5 o'clock. Oh no, I have to leave every day at 4. Now she knew that before she interviewed and took that job. And so Aquanetta said, I can fix this problem, and she let her go, as I would have done. Now, so here's Dale's theorem on this one. The building won't get any closer to your house just because you get a job there. The traffic won't get any better. Your obligations with your family or children will not change. If it's too far, or you wouldn't work in that kind of school, or it doesn't fit your schedule, or the traffic's too bad, do not go interview for that job. Let me say that again. That is my #1 pet peeve. Do not interview for a job you know that you wouldn't take simply to get experience interview. It is not the principal or whoever's there doing it. It's not their job to get you in experience. Their job is to find the best person. And if you know that those things are all limiting factors, do not go. Don't waste their time. Because if that happens, that principal in Charlotte Mecklenburg, you can put a hold on somebody, they won't ever get a job. So, you're playing with fire if you do something like that. But again, don't interview for a job you know you won't take. The building won't get any closer to your house. Traffic won't get any better, and it won't change your kid's schedule. So that's my advice to you on that. So let me share my screen and go back. Okay. And of course, any question that shows you haven't been listed. But again, we don't do flex time. We don't do comp time. Those are illegal in North and South Carolina. And then I think that's covered. You can go through all of these. And then the last one is my top 10 for job interviews. And these are personal things from me. Dress for success. If you wear a wig, wear your best wig. Do the best you can. You notice that, well, I just took my necktie off today. I was doing staff development for a central office up in Thomasville. I had on a suit and a necktie today. I'm not trying to get a job there, but it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of respect. Dress for success. Take your 2-page evidence summary or the link to your portfolio so that you can leave that if you need to. Research both the school, as I told you. Make sure that you've seen the report card in TWC, because they may ask you questions. If you can, know the background of the administrative team, so you can kind of figure out if you're going to fit in or not, excuse me. Know what you don't know. EBOS, that's what I was talking about. When you tell them that I have my blind, my weaknesses are experience, know that you haven't worked, you haven't seen school EBOS. You might have seen your teacher EBOS. You haven't seen all the modules in Power School. Power Source is the evaluation system. You have not seen the entire portfolio for RTI or MTSS, your entire inclusion, only what touched you, or PBIS, but you know that you need to learn those things, and that you will. Again, make sure your weaknesses are experiential, that can be fixed. Have a humorous anecdote about how you were able to turn a negative into a positive. You're always asked that. We have faced a difficult or a negative situation, and how'd you turn it around? Always make sure it's humorous. Be prepared to discuss hours and responsibilities honestly. Again, that goes back to that there is no flex time. If we start at 9:30 and go to 5 o'clock, then you got to stay till 5 o'clock. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Again, strengths are dispositional. Your weaknesses are experiential. Don't discuss salary, experience, slips, national board, same things I've told you. Don't engage in gossip or negative talk. Principals know one another. And last, as I told you, don't interview for a job that you would take just for the experience. It's a waste of interviews time, word get out, and they'll blackball. Their job's not to get you experience. Now, here is the corollary to that. You get that first AP job. Here are the 10 things that you need to have accomplished by the time you get to your first faculty meeting. Know everybody's name and what they do. Get the annual. More than that, have them go around the room and introduce themselves when you get there. Now, that was one of my parlor tricks. I have a eidetic memory, and so I would memorize it. Even if they came to see if I could do it in the high school with 225 teachers, not a big deal. Again, it's just a parlor trick for me. But if you don't have that kind of memory, then you need to make sure that you make a personal connection with everybody at that first meeting. Get an early win for something. I don't care if it's just get them a new pencil sharpener. Get an early win. You want to establish a track record of success immediately. See, if the first 2 or 3 things that you tackle you're not successful at, then you'll become then you're an idiot. You're an incompetent. And even when things go good after that, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while. It's just, and so make sure that you pick something small and get an early win. Don't tackle the problem they've had for the last 10 years, your first day there. Give the staff a very quick overview of who you are and your professional experience. Do not spend more than 1 minute on that, but make it about them, not about you, that you're there to help. You have the experience, you can do it, and you're there to help. Volunteer for something nobody else wants to do. Do as I do, lend a hand, be a servant leader. If you can get the principal to present the opening of school plan and be conversant so that you're one of them now. Smile and laugh at the appropriate times. That's real important. Ask questions and take notes. Again, carry your pad in your pocket. You know me, I've always got a pad, always. Always got a pad with me. Take notes so you can follow up with me. Again, I take notes all week long, just like today. I take notes all week long, so I know who, there you go, Michelle. Have your pad with you. So people ask you for things. Now, this is one that you really need to work on. Recognize somebody for something positive you've seen. Don't just say, I saw some good looking bulletin boards, pick somebody that you saw something specific that was excellent, that was better than everybody else's, and call them by name. I saw this person's bulletin board. I saw this person's lesson plan. Again, you want them to know that you're paying attention, that you're there, that you've already bought in. Don't complain or seem worried about being ready for the opening of school. The kids will show up, school will open whether you're ready or not. You need to worry about it. Don't be henny penny. If you panic, they will. That's the thing. Is you must be calm. What is the duck on the surface? You're calm and you're paddling like hell underneath. That's the deal. And then number 10, don't mention how busy you are or how hard you're working. That is the expectation for everyone, especially in school administration. That's the whole point. praise others for how hard they work, but don't ever get caught whining about how hard you work or how busy you are, or any of that, because what you're telling them is that you don't have time for them. That's what they hear, whether you intended that or not. When you, as a school administrator, when you tell people that you're busy, you're working hard, or you don't have time, you're telling them that they don't matter to you. And that does not go well. All right. So I'm looking forward to next week. I told you I'd get you out in less than an hour tonight, because next week will be a marathon. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to hit tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those again. We'll kind of do our wrap up next week, but I couldn't be more pleased. Everything's gone well this summer again. I'm thankful that you're better students than I am instructors, so that makes it work out really, really good for me. Anybody have anything else they want to contribute to the group before we go this evening? All right, I'm not gonna call. Okay.
Dr. Lamb, I actually wanted some clarification on task stream. I think my group and we talked about it to try to figure out.
That's never good. That's never good.
Well, I've done my my competencies, but it's like 4 of them
So
are for CAP or PSYOP.
Yeah, let me stop you. Try to do 21 this summer. That doesn't mean that's going to be one for all 21. Read what the directions are. If one says OMA and skip, you can put 2 in that one, but there'll be some you can't put any in. But try to keep up with 21. But again, you're supposed to be able to figure that out. I don't expect to see 1 in every one of them. I expect to see 21 overall, but you have to follow the directions. Now, when you open them up, you read the direction on what you're supposed to have in that. And if it doesn't fit what you did this summer, you go to the next one, because some of them you put 2 in, some you don't put any. But in the end, you should have 21.
Okay.
So that's pretty simple, but
I think my question, because the way I was looking, the one that we were given, the example, I tried to follow the example we were given during our spring semester, where they highlight, they had it as spring 2022, summer 2022, fall 2022. Can we still do it that way? Although we're doing 2 in
as
spring?
long as you get 21 in there, it really doesn't make them. That's why I said I've seen that per chart that they've done on those where it shows the flow of every 21.
Okay.
Just don't get behind. That's the trick. As long as you have a system, all is good. In the end, all we're interested in is that you have 63 at the end of the program. What I'm interested in is that you don't come out of summer behind, and then like some that I've got right now that are, staying up. I mean, one submitted his this morning at 3:26 a.m. I mean, that's how tight they are. They're behind. And I don't, and Crystal, I'm not trying to cut y'all, but I don't want y'all to be behind. And I trust that y'all will do the right thing. As long as you've got a system, you're good. As long as you know that I just can't get behind. Because it gets real hairy at the end. Y'all will have a lot more time in the fall than the summer people, but some of them got jammed up because they didn't have to use any system. As long as you use a system, you'll be fine. As long as you know what you're doing, you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I mean, I trust y'all. Y'all are the C2 group. Y'all are the stars. Y'all know how to do this. This is not rocket science here. We're not splitting atoms. At the end of the day, that folio's got to have 63 in it. And anyway, you just follow the directions. When it opens up, it says, make sure if it's not something you did this summer, move on to the next one. So that when you get to your last semester, you don't open it up and you got 3 in it. You're supposed to have 60. We had some folks that's what they did, and so that they're working in the middle of the night. That's how it goes. But they're on that. They've already had their first drop dead date was yesterday, and they've got another one coming up. And summer, there it's really tight. Summer, you'll have more time in the fall. No sense in dragging it out. Get it knocked out as soon as you can. Other question? That's a great question. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to your presentations next week. This is a wonderful assessment. 2/3 of the way through the program of seeing where you are, because how many connections you can link back to this case, the stuff that y'all done, your case studies, your activities, your evidences, pull it all out, whatever you can find. Draw the link to those things. We'll see where you are. All right. I'll see you next Tuesday night at 6. Everybody have a good week. Thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.